Have you ever just stopped and wondered, how does a country as huge and complex as India actually work? It's not by accident, that's for sure. It's all laid out in one incredible document. So today, we're going to crack open the Indian Constitution, not as some dry, dusty law book, but as what it really is, the user manual for the entire country. Let's dive in and see how this machine is supposed to run. I mean, really think about it. We give our governments a massive amount of power to make laws, to collect taxes, to run pretty much everything. So what's the emergency brake? What stops all that power from being turned against the very people it's meant to serve? Well, the answer is that single document we were talking about, the Constitution. It's the ultimate rule book. It sets down the law of the land, drawing the lines for everyone, from the Prime Minister right down to you and me.
At its very core, this is what we're talking about. A constitution is way more than just a piece of paper. It's the basic agreement on how we all decide to live together. It sets the rules of the game for how the country is going to be run. Every other law, every government policy, it all has to follow the rules laid out right here.
So what does this rulebook actually do? Well, you can break it down into four main jobs. First, it gives us the basic rules of the road so we can all function together without chaos. Second, it's very specific about who gets to make the big decisions and exactly how they get to make them. Third, and this one is a biggie, it puts a hard limit on the government's power. It tells them what they can't do. And finally, it gives the government a mission to work towards building a fair and just society for everyone.
Okay, so that's the big picture, but where do you fit into all of this? Well, the most powerful and direct way is through your vote. Let's take a look at how that one simple act at the polling booth actually builds the government, starting with the Lok Sabha elections.
So picture this. The entire country is carved up into 543 different areas, or what we call constituencies. The idea is really straightforward. Each one of these 543 areas gets to elect one person to go and represent them in the Lok Sabha, the lower house of parliament.
And how do we pick the winner? India uses a system called first past the post. Honestly, the best way to think about it is like a race. The first person to cross the finish line wins. It doesn't matter if you win by a second or an hour, whoever gets the most votes, even if it's not a 50% majority, takes the seat. It's simple, and it produces a clear winner. Now, this chart really shows why that choice is so important. With our system, first past the post, you vote for a specific person in your local area. The result? A political party can end up with a lot more seats in parliament than its actual percentage of the national vote. This usually leads to more stable governments. Compare that to proportional representation, or PR. There, you vote for a party, and the number of seats they get is directly proportional to their vote share. It's often more representative, but can lead to a lot of coalition governments.
All right, so that's the Lok Sabha covered. But wait a minute. Parliament has two houses, right? What about the other one, the Rajya Sabha, the Council of States? How do those folks get elected? Do we vote for them too? Well, the answer is no, and the system is completely different.
Yeah. For the Rajya Sabha, it's a whole different ballgame. We don't vote directly. Instead, the people we elected to our state governments, the MLAs, they do the voting. And they use a pretty complex method called the single transferable vote. Instead of just picking one person, they rank the candidates by preference. It's designed to make sure that the states get fair and proportional representation in the upper house.
So, the Constitution gives you a voice through your vote. But it also does something else, something absolutely essential. It gives you a shield. It guarantees you certain rights that are so fundamental, no government, no law, no official can ever take them away.
Now, you'll hear about two kinds of principles here. Let's clear it up. Think of it this way. Fundamental rights are your personal shield. They are legally enforceable. If someone violates your right to free speech, you can go to court. End of story. Directive principles, on the other hand, are like a moral compass for the government. They're a list of goals, like good education, public health, that the state should be working towards. They're a guide, not a guarantee you can sue over.
And this quote from Dr. Ambedkar, the chief architect of our Constitution, just nails it. He said the right to enforce your rights is the heart and soul of the whole thing. I mean, what good are rights on paper if you can't do anything about it when someone violates them? This right is what gives all the other rights their teeth.
So let's say your rights have been violated. The Constitution says you can go straight to the top, to the Supreme Court. But then what? What can the court actually do to help? Well, it has a very special and very powerful toolkit.
That toolkit is made up of 5 special court orders called writs. Take habeas corpus, for example. It basically means show me the body. It forces the police to bring an arrested person before a judge and justify the arrest.
It's a massive check on state power. Then you have mandamus, which orders an official to actually do the job they're legally supposed to do. The others help control lower courts or even question if someone is legally fit to hold a public office. These aren't just legal terms. They are real-world tools that make your rights a reality.
And what's really amazing is that over the years, getting justice became even easier. In the late 70s, the court started something revolutionary. They said you didn't have to be the direct victim to file a case. This was the birth of public interest litigation, or PIL. All of a sudden, a newspaper story about prisoners being held without trial could become a court case. A single letter sent from a jail cell about torture could launch a full-blown investigation. It literally opened the doors of justice to everyone.
All right, this brings us to the master plan, the overall architecture of the government. The framers of the Constitution were determined to prevent any one person or group from getting too much power. So what did they do? They split the government's power into 3 separate branches.
First up, you have the legislature. For us, that's Parliament. Their main job is exactly what it sounds like. They debate and they make the laws.
Second, you have the executive. This is the government itself, the Prime Minister and their cabinet. Their job is to take the laws that Parliament passes and actually put them into action, to execute them.
And third, you've got the judiciary. These are all the courts, from the local level right up to the Supreme Court. They are the referees. Their job is to interpret the laws and settle any disputes to make sure everyone is playing by the rules.
And this is the ultimate check in the whole system. The judiciary has the power of judicial review. What does that mean? It means the Supreme Court can look at any law passed by Parliament, and if they find it violates the Constitution, they can strike it down. Just like that. It's null and void. This power ensures that the Constitution always remains the supreme law of the land.
But here's the really brilliant part. The Constitution wasn't designed to be a block of stone frozen in 1950. Its creators were smart enough to know that India would change in ways they couldn't even imagine. So they built in a way for the Constitution to change and evolve right along with the country.
Now, there is a limit to that change, and it comes from one of the most famous court cases in Indian history. In 1973, the Supreme Court ruled that while Parliament can amend the Constitution, it cannot change its basic structure. This means the core ideas, things like democracy, the rule of law, fundamental rights, are untouchable. They are the soul of the Constitution, and no amendment can ever be allowed to destroy them.
And that really brings us to the final, most important question. How can a document written in 1950 still effectively run a 21st century global power? Well, its true genius is that it's not a rigid set of instructions. It's a flexible framework. It has an unshakable core, but it's also designed to be interpreted and adapted by each new generation. And that, right there, is what makes it a truly living document.